far we have done with FSO, we are done with Excels, we are done with WSH, we are done with regular expressions, and we are done with dictionary objects, right? So all these things. And we have few more things to be discussed, as like WSH, we have some other things. But we will see them later, not now. Once we complete this VBScript, some of the advanced things are all, which are rarely used in automation. I will explain them. Okay. Now we are going to discuss about DOM. Okay. So DOM. So actually DOM is nothing but DOM. So we call it as document object model. Okay, so document object. Okay, so DOM stands for document object model. Right. See here, when it comes to DOM, right? DOM again two types. One is two types. One is HTML. Second one is XML. You call it as an HTML DOM, or you can call it as an XML DOM. HTML DOM or XML DOM. So what this DOM exactly does here is, the application which is developed by HTML, whatever the application is developed by HTML, right? So if you want to deal with the objects, like accessing the source code of that particular file and dealing with the source code, normally how that objects and all will be developed in HTML, we write HTML tags, right? And we will write, we will use some properties and all to the objects and all. So many things that we will be using, and we are going to learn basic of HTML next. Okay, and this HTML DOM normally used to access the HTML elements, nothing but HTML source code of an application, and deal with the objects and all by retrieving the HTML tags, all this. Every object, whatever we develop in HTML, every object will have something called HTML tag and will have some properties, all this. So this HTML DOM is used to access the objects by this HTML tags, attributes, all this, and perform the actions or events on these objects. That's what HTML. So HTML DOM is used to access the HTML based applications or accessing the source code of the application and perform the retrieving the objects by source code and then performing the actions on it. That's what the DOM means for. Similarly, even XML also. When we are defining XML, XML is another language we can call it as. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, we call it as. Whereas XML stands for Extensive Markup Language, that we call it as. Also, generally XML is used to store the data. Normal XML, most of the times XMLs are used for transferring the data or storing the data. Okay, so this is what XML. So now, when it comes to this HTML and XML, first we will learn HTML DOM and then we will go to XML. But to learn with HTML DOM, first what we need to do is first we need to understand the basics of HTML. Then only we will be able to access the objects. The reason why this is almost where important thing for automation testers also, learning basics of HTML. Not only basics of HTML, you need to learn basics of any language that whatever you are working on. I mean, if the application is developed by Java, it is important to know some basics of Java, but not completely. You don't need to understand everything of Java. Okay, and if it is .NET, then just understand the basics of .NET. But why we need to understand that is, it's not a mandatory, but it's an important thing for us. The reason because if you know about HTML, then if any HTML application is given to you with all the objects and all, then if you know the HTML, you can easily understand how the objects have been constructed in the application, and you can easily understand what kind of properties that they have given to the object, and how that application behavior is changing, and what kind of properties that can be taken to identify the object, to locate the object or not. So every language, or sorry, not only language, any automation tool that whatever you use to automate the application, the basic thing is here. First, you need to tell to the tool saying that what objects that you need to work and how that object will be looking like. Tool cannot understand the object directly. First, you need to tell to the tool saying that okay, so and so object has got so and so properties. Okay, so access an object which has got these properties and values, then perform so and so action. That's how we need to guide any automation tool. That's a basic thing. It's not like QTP, it's not like EFT, or it's not like a test complete or any tool that whatever you use. But the basic thing is you need to guide the tool. Okay, you need to guide the tool. Then, in this case, if it is an HTML based application, you need to guide the tool anyway, how that object and all looks like. That means what kind of properties and all that object has got, what class it is and what kind of properties and all. To understand all these properties and all, then you should know basic of HTML. Then only you will be able to understand what kind of properties that they have used, which properties will help us to identify. Similarly, even it is Java application, if you know Java a little bit, at least how the objects and all will be constructed. Not everything, not all the logics and all. At least how that object, what kind of properties that they are providing to the object, how the property values are changing. If you can understand this much, then that will be more than enough. Because if you don't understand the object, then how you can tell to the tool? That's first thing, right? Now let's say, for example, okay, so Narasimha is there. So what I have to do is assume that he is a Kranti is a tool. Then what I will do? I'll just say that I need to tell an action to the Kranti. Say Narasimha is an object and Kranti is a tool. I'll just say go and slap Narasimha. Then he doesn't know how Narasimha looks like, right? He doesn't know how Narasimha looks like. First, what I have to do? First, I need to understand how that Narasimha looks like, what kind of properties, how he has been constructed, right? What properties, what's his name, and what's his height, what's his weight, right? What language that he speaks, what's his education, right? Where he stays. But a lot of properties are there. But I don't need to understand all the properties. But I will take whatever the properties are necessary to identify. But within this group, name will be enough here, because name is a unique. I'll just say, okay, class as a human, I will tell to Kranti, identify one object which is class as a human and gender male and name Narasimha. If I tell that, then that will be enough, right? So you will go and identify. First, you will go and search in the room, and whoever matches with the properties what I have given, he will take that object and then he will perform the action. Similarly, there will be two Narasimhas. Chances are there. Then I need to understand a little bit more. Okay, apart from name, what are other properties that we have for that object? Then, if we have other properties, which other property will help us to locate that person uniquely, right? So if you don't understand these properties, at least you should know about something about that class of object, right? What kind of properties particular class of object can have. So then only you will be able to say. Suddenly now if we say that, so if you see a stranger, or maybe assume that okay, an alien has come, but you never seen such kind of objects, so you don't even know the class of that. What it is and all you don't know, because this is the first time that you are seeing that such kind of objects. Then you will not be knowing what actions I can perform on it, right? And what kind of properties that has got on, you will not be knowing. Because that's a strange thing. If I, instead of performing one action, if I go and touch, something may happen to me, right? because you don't even know, you have never seen such kind of objects. So if you don't know that object, what class it belongs to, what kind of properties or what kind of methods you can perform, how we can tell to others. You should know basic about that, right, that particular class. Getting what I'm saying here? So this is very important for automation tester always. If you need to when you're an automation tester, you need to instruct your tool saying that okay, so perform an action on this object. But when you want to perform an action on this object, and if you want to ask your tool how that object should be accessed, or if you want to tell to the tool how that object should be accessed, then first you should know how that object looks like. Then you will tell this is how the object will be looking like. To understand how the object looks like on the, then you should understand the properties of it. To understand the properties, the basic things you should know, right? You should know what is meant by name. You should know what is meant by ID. You should know what is meant by tag. These things, if you know, then it will be easy for you to tell to the tool. Getting what I'm saying? So that's where we need to learn now. But you don't need to learn the complete development. You don't need to learn everything of the language, but basic. Okay. Similarly, now okay, first what we'll do is we will see a basic HTML. First we will learn basic HTML, and then we will come to the down part, how that object symbol can be accessed. Okay. Then whenever it comes to HTML, right? There are few things that you need to understand in HTML. First, you need to understand something called HTML tag. What is meant by HTML tag? Remember, every object whatever is defined in HTML or in the page, web page, every object will be defined through HTML tag. So most of the times the class of the object will be defined, will be identified based on the HTML tag. Every object, you have an edit field. For edit field, one HTML tag. You must have to use tag. Then only object can be defined. You want a link in the page, then one tag that you have to use. For link, there is one more tag. If you want a web list, that means a drop down box, then one tag that you need to use. You want a button, one tag that you need to use. Every object that whatever we use, whatever we have in HTML, every object will be defined by HTML. You must have to use the tag. Without HTML tag, no object will be defined. Remember that. Okay, that's one thing. Second one is you call it as an attribute. Attribute is nothing but the properties of the object. As soon as you define the tag, that means you define the object. When you are defining a tag, nothing but you are defining an object. Whenever you define an object, within that object, you need to define the properties for it. So that tomorrow if you want to access those objects, any of the objects from that application, what you can do, you can say get an object which have got so and so attributes and values for it. Okay. So first is HTML tag, second one is attribute. Then another one is child node. Sorry, before that, first understand element. Element is nothing but an object. Normally here, when outside we call it as an object when you are using tool and all. But when it comes to the source code, okay, and when it comes to the DOM, we call that object as an element. Element is nothing but the object that which we need to work with. Okay. And also, next one is child node. Child node is nothing but a child element, you can call it as. Okay. So when I say child node here, sometimes what happens is inside one object there could be lot of objects placed. Now let's say a page could be an object. Inside page we will place a lot of objects, all these forms, everything will be placed inside the page. Those are child nodes. I have a frame, inside frame I can place a lot of objects, so that's again child node, right? Or inside a table is a parent, inside table I can have a lot of links or a lot of objects, that's a child node. In terms of automation tool we call it as child object, and here we call it as a child node. Okay, it's a child node. Then node name is nothing but tag name. If you say, if you retrieve a child, then child for a child node, then if you say node name is nothing but name of the tag, whatever the tag you use it to define that child. Anything you have access, you have got one object already. If you want to know the tag, which tag they have used to use it for that object, then you say node name. Node name is nothing but name of the tag. Then another one is, you can say inner text. Inner text is nothing but the content, the text content which is appended for that particular element. Inner text is nothing but the text content which is appended for a element or for a node, child node, anything. Okay. Apart from this, there are few more, but you will be getting slowly, not you don't need right now. But as I told, the basic only, we are going to learn only basics of HTML as of now. But slowly you will learn when we automate multiple applications, web-based applications. You will learn different kinds of properties or different things, how the objects and all will be constructed. Okay, slowly you will learn. Okay, so you have written, right, these things. So first, let's do one thing. What I will do is, I will develop one HTML page. We will develop some sample HTML page, and then we will start automating that particular application. We'll save this. We'll create a new folder. Okay. HTML. Inside this we'll create, and I will save it as an HTML, and I'll save it as sample file.html. Okay. Right. Now every HTML file, we need to understand some of the tag names, one by one. The basic rule is, in the HTML, everything will be tag based here. For everything you need to define a tag, but tag names are defined different. All tags are defined by HTML already, and always the hierarchy of the tags will be like this. The parent should be closed at the end always. The root should be always closed. So when you define a parent, child, or child like this, subchild and all, so the hierarchy, whatever defined last, that has to be closed first. If the child closes, then only parent will be closed always. That's the first thing that you remember. Okay. And HTML tags are not case sensitive. You can define the tags in any case. You can initiate the tag in one case, and you can also close that in different case. But tag name should be matched, but case is not a matter. HTML is not a case sensitive language. Okay. Right. So Every HTML application will start with the tag called HTML. So one of the best practices, as soon as you define the tag, try to close it. Okay. Next, you will be having something called header. Header means generally we get the title, right? That comes under header part. You can define header. Now inside header you can give some other element called title. If you see here, see header is the child of HTML here. So child must be closed, then only I will close the parent. But if you close here the header after HTML, this is wrong. That is wrong, because as soon as you close the parent, then okay, so no child can be accessed after that, because parent is closed. So first the child has to be closed. Title, you can say this is sample HTML file. So all these are the tag names, whatever you are using. You have to start the tag like this, within less than greater than symbols, and it has to be closed like this. You must have to use forward slash. You must have to use forward slash to close it. Okay, always. So this is the syntax. See, every tag is being closed with forward slash. When you are using forward slash before the tag name, that means that you are closing the tag. Okay. So now what I have defined, I just defined the header of the page. Then I need to define the content of it page. Then all the content of a page will be defined using a tag called body. Okay, will be defined with body. Then let's say body here. First we will define some objects. First, okay, we will define a login page. When you say login page, will be like this. You should have a username. You should have a password. You should have a forgot password link, or you should have a register here link, and then you have submit button or login button. Just you can call it as it. So I need two edit fields. Username and password are edit fields. Then two links, one button. Okay. So first I need to define username. To define username, it's a text field. So to define a text field, we use the tag called input. Okay. So in tag name is input. So input tag is used to define a text field, or you can also define a button, or you can also define a checkbox. For all these three types of objects, input tag can be used. Okay. Then what I am doing is, I'll just define the object and I'm closing it immediately. I'm closing the event immediately. Now, let's see how that will be looking like. It will open through a browser. You can see there is one field has come, text field, right? Similarly, what I will do is, one more has come. You can see, to edit fields. Then what I need is here. I need login button also. And as I told, you can use input tag for defining the button. But if I define input directly like this, what happens? What will come instead of button? It will a text field will come. But I want a button there. Getting what I am saying? I need button there. What should I do? So what I do is, I will still use input only, but I will define some property for this. If I give one attribute, then after by using that attribute, I will convert that input into button type. So the attribute name is type here. You need to define the type. Then remember, all the attributes will be given within the start tag. Within the start tag, inside the tag only we use after we provide the attributes. So type equals to button. Then from here you can see that is converted into a button. But generally you can see whenever the button is there, one value will come on top of it, right? So I need to give some value on top of this button, right? But right now it is a blank. Then to give certain value for that particular button, we have one more attribute called value. Value attribute for an input is nothing but, if it is a button type, value is nothing but the text which is displayed on top of the button. That is called as value. When it is edit field, the value or the text which is set inside the edit field. The value which is set inside the edit field is nothing but the value of that particular field. So value attribute is nothing but to set the value into an edit field, or also you can retrieve the value from an edit field. Okay, whatever the value that we are setting, that goes into the value attribute only. When it is button, the text which is displayed on top of button is nothing but the value. Remember, all these things are important to know these attributes, because by using these attributes only, we are going to automate the objects later. Value. Sorry. Value equals to, I'll say login here. It has come here, right? Then next, I need to have a link, right? I need to have a link. You got what is meant by attribute, but you still need to know, because input and all, if you see, I am not differentiating between username and password there. So tomorrow, if I want to write the script, even if I need to develop the logic for this application, first I need to access the username, and then I need to see what value has been entered in the username, and whether they have entered right value or not. Because when I click on login, some functionality should happen and all. That we will see later part. No functionality is available yet. That we will see later. But when I need to define some logic and all using any of the language later, first I need to understand what value that user is entered into those objects. How I can validate? First I need to access those objects and retrieve the values from it. But if I want to access the username, how can you say which is username and which is password here? Well, looking at the source code, we will not be able to say. Right? Then how can I tell to my script access the username? It will be a little difficult for me, right? But now I can say button, login. I can access login button. Then what I will do is, I will say that, okay, access an element which has got the value as login. Or I can access an element which has got the type as button and value as login. So that it will retrieve. Right? But now for username and password, I have not given anything. Then how can I say? If I say that access an element which has got the HTML tag as input, there are three. All three have got same tag name. So to differentiate between the objects, to give unique identification for the objects, and also to set the behavior or the state of the object. Normal attributes are used to provide the identification. Second one is set the behavior. Third one is state. Set the state like disabled, enabled, visible or invisible. All these are states. Behavior, is it a password field or how it has to behave, password or normal text, all these things. Okay, text, I need to define a link. Yeah, I'm coming to that. You need to have a break there. Okay, so that's where I'm coming next. Next, I need to have two links. One is forgot password. We use HTML tag called A. A stands for anchor. Anchor element. A stands for anchor element. Then normally whenever we define a link, we use HTML tag as A. And whenever it is a link, it's an hyperlink equalitas, right? Then always the link will be referred to an address, another URL. Always a link will be referred to another URL. Then if you want to provide that reference, then we have an attribute called href. Okay, we have an attribute called href for a link especially. When you say href here, then you need to provide for which link. When I click on that link, where that has to navigate to. I'm just giving that reference link. Now there should be some text displayed on it, right? A link. Then what you do is you will not give that link as an attribute, the text as an attribute. What I am doing is in between starting and the ending tag. I'm saying forget password. So what I am doing here, I am giving in between starting and ending tag. This is called inner text. This is called inner text. Whatever the text you see on the web page, not inside the button or drop down, all this normal text, whatever the text that you see on top of the web page, that's called as an inner text. Okay. Now if you see here, this is the inner text of the link, whatever you see. But internal properties will be different. But whatever is visible to you for the links or some text fields or not text field, element and all, labels and all, we are going to define. All these are generally to make the content visible, we write the inner text. When you click on this, it will navigate to Google. That's a hyperlink. Then similarly, one more that we can provide here is I'll just say gmail.com. I'm just giving it as a register. Got two links. Now each object should be there in a new line, right? Or username and password should be in one line, link should be in second line, and login button should be in another line. You said something called BR. That's a break. Line break. Got it. That. Sorry? Where? You don't need to enter BR. Sorry, you don't need to write an end tag for BR. Not required. There are few things like some elements and all you don't need to close. BR and all just only to insert a line break. Yeah. Okay. So I have defined some objects like this. So what I am doing now is, see here, every object that whatever I have got here, how I am defining based on the tags. Every type of object has got one tag there. But some tags will be used for different objects, like input can be used for different types of objects, input, edit field or button or any other objects. Okay. Now, when I say username and password, I just define it as an input. Okay. Now, I am entering some value into this. I am entering some value into this. But when you say password, how that password should be looking like? Password should be encoded, right? Should be encoded. But if I give directly input like this, it will define it as a normal text field, not as a password field. Now we need to say that that input is not a normal text field. That input is a password. Then what he says here, it is password, and you don't have any inner text or anything changed for this, right? What you can do, you can directly close like this. Within the tag, you can close input and directly can give slash greater than symbol. So that defines the state, this type or character of that field. The character of that field is password. Then now for username and all, I need to set some identification, right? Then what I will do is, name is one attribute. Say username. You can give any name there, or you can also provide another attribute called ID. Name could be duplicated. I mean, the same name can be used for different objects. Normally, ID will be unique. Then for this also, you can say name equals to user password and ID equals to anything that you can provide. So like this, you can define the attributes. All these are the attributes. This is the tag name, and these are the attributes. And attributes are here. Why I am using attributes? To define the identification. So later, whenever you are writing a programs and all on this particular object, then access the objects by using this particular attributes. But it's not only these attributes. There are many more, and depends on the type of the object. Then we will be getting some other attributes as well. Slowly we will see all of them. But this gives basic identification of the object of this. But it's up to the developer wish, developer may define ID or may not define ID. Okay, so you can't force developer to give ID for every object, name for every object. It's up to them how they are giving the identification, because even if they want to write the programs and all to define the logics and all for the objects using any language, they have to access the objects first. So to access the objects, then again what they do, so they will define some identification like this. Got what I am saying here? Then when I say everything is a tag here, right? How every object is defined by using HTML tag. And if you consider HTML as a main element, what are the child nodes here? Child nodes. What is meant by child node? Header and body are the childs of HTML. Remember, when you say child node, for HTML, header and body. Title will not be child of HTML. Title is a child of header. So when you say child node, immediate child it is. not the child of child at all, immediate child only for that element. Everything you can consider. Header is one element, or title is one element, and body is one element, and inside body each input is in one element, or each A is one element. Everything is an element. Element is nothing but the object. So like this, this is just a basic HTML file, but like this we can define different types of objects. Okay, we can define different types of objects, and but for now it is not much required for us to define all the objects and all, but only basic that we are learning as of now. That assume I got the application like this, and I need to perform some actions. I need to perform some actions. Yesterday I told that if the space is there, you need to separate with, you need to replace the space with %20 when I said about the WSH. Right? Right. You can see here, whenever I open the browser, how the thing is open. When I'm running local file, you can say file / and wherever the space is there, it is replacing with %20. All browsers and all will recognize automatically whenever you are launching the local file. Same thing you need to provide for that method in the WSH. Okay. Now, what we will do, we will just automate that particular application. But not everything, just basic actions that we perform as of now. So first what I have to do is, I need to enter the username, I need to enter the password. Basic actions. Manually we are able to do. Through automation, how can we do it? So whenever we need to do through automation, very first thing that what we should do is, we need to launch the browser. And then you need to navigate to that application. First launch a browser. Maybe Firefox or Chrome or Internet Explorer. But remember, since we are using only VBScript here, VBScript is friendly with Internet Explorer, not friendly with Chrome and Firefox. So that if you want to deal with these objects using VBScript, you have to launch that application in Internet Explorer. You cannot launch in Chrome and you cannot launch in Firefox. If you launch them in Firefox and all, then you will not be able to access the source code on the, because VBScript is not supported by these browsers. Okay. So first you need to launch the Internet Explorer. You need to navigate to the application. Then you need to access the objects. You need to access the objects by how? By the attributes. First access the objects by attributes, whatever that attributes give, and perform the required actions. Okay. So what is the first thing here? First you need to launch application. Nothing but you need to launch in Internet Explorer. To launch the Internet Explorer, we use something called set I equals to. We need to create an instance of Internet Explorer object. Internet Explorer dot Internet Explorer dot application. So first we need to create the instance of Internet Explorer application object to launch the Internet Explorer. As soon as this object is initiated, what it does exactly is, or whenever you have initiated this object, and if that line gets executed, what happens is, it will start the Internet Explorer process automatically. iExplore.exe process will be started. But by default, this will run the browser, Internet Explorer browser in hidden mode. It will run in hidden mode. So in such cases, what you do is, you say IE dot, same thing was happened to the Excel also. What did we do? In the Excel, we said visible equals to true, right? Say IE dot visible equals to true. Okay. Then when you run this, you can see it's launched Internet Explorer, but by default it navigates to blank or a default URL, whatever is set. So next what I have to do is I need to navigate that to a specific application, right? Then what you do is say that IE dot, there is a method called navigate. Okay, so method called navigate. This method, navigate method, is used to navigate the browser to a specific URL. Then you provide the URL of the application here. So IE is nothing but Internet Explorer application object here. You are making that IE as visible, and then you are navigating that to a specific URL. And you can see it's navigating. Next, what you have to do, now you have navigated, fine. You have to enter the username and password, right? So I need to access the username field. How do we access that field? By using some attributes, obviously. Not only attributes, maybe by using tag also. But first thing, what method I can use? There are three methods we have to access the elements inside the HTML page. Write down those methods. One is get elements by tag name. Let me write here. Get elements by tag name. It's not case sensitive, you can write it in any case, no problem. Get elements by name. Get elements by tag name. Get elements by name. Just look at below. And get element by ID. So remember, when it is tag name or name, then it is get elements. But when it is ID, it is get element. Okay? So you can use either get elements by tag name or get elements by name or get elements by ID. Okay, so to access the object. But it depends on the situation. We will see. We will have to use all of them to understand. When you say get element by ID, if you see that for some of the objects I have defined ID attribute, right? If ID attribute is available for any of the object, it's not mandatory to give ID every time. It's a developer's wish. If you have ID available for any of the object here, then you can say get element by ID. But if you don't have ID, if you have only name attribute, then you can say get elements by name. Then when you say get elements, it will retrieve as a collection. Even though one object is there, still that will be retrieved as a collection. Then if you don't have name and ID, for this name is not available, ID is not available, then you cannot say get elements by href. You don't have like that. So first you need to retrieve by tag name, and then within that collection, if you say get elements by tag name of A, then it will retrieve collection of objects here. Then you need to deal with the objects. You will see that. Now, for username and password, I have the ID available, right? Then how can I access that is, say IE dot, you should not directly say get element by ID. You should not say that. But what you should say is, instead of saying get element by ID directly in the IE, what you have to do is, there is something called document. IE dot document. Document is nothing but the page which is displayed. IE is the browser window, and in that browser window the document which is opened, nothing but the page. Page is called as the IE. Whatever is displayed here, 1 minute. Whatever is displayed here, all this is nothing but the page. So this is the browser and this is the page. So what you have to do is, first you need to access the browser. Inside that browser, first access the page. Inside the page, access these objects. Okay. So whenever you need to retrieve an object from a web page, first you have to say IE dot document dot get element by ID. Get element by ID. You can give this method name in any case, no problem. Then ID is user, right? So get element by ID. Then what I am trying to say here is access an element which has got the ID attribute value as user. Okay, so it will go to the page, whatever the page that is open, then it will go inside all the elements and retrieve the ID attribute for all the elements. Then it will check which ID, which element has got the ID as user. Whatever the element it finds with this value for ID attribute, it will get that element. Saying set O user. Since okay, this returns an element. Element is nothing but an object. Then what I am doing? That object I am assigning to a variable. Since I am assigning object to a variable, I am using set there. You know what is meant by value? Value is nothing but whatever the value that we set inside the edit field, or value, the same value. If you want to retrieve the value from an edit field or set the value to an edit field, you can use value. So that field dot value equals to, if I change the value of value attribute, value is one of the attribute. Okay, if I provide some content to the value attribute, then it will automatically set the value to the edit field. So what I am doing is, I am setting some value to the value attribute here. Let's see how this works. Now it says that unspecified error. The reason because why it is giving unspecified error, as soon as I launch the application and navigate, it is taking a little time to load it. So okay, by the time this get element by ID executed, page was not loaded completely. When the page was not loaded, application was not loaded, then it's not able to, it will not be able to retrieve the object. So that's the reason what I am doing is, after navigating, I am giving some wait period as 5 seconds. But this is also wrong. You should not give the wait period like this. We have one more way, that's called synchronization and all we use. Because it's not 5 seconds. When you are working with real application, this is sample application, local application, so that 5 seconds or 2 seconds, that is okay. But when you are working with real applications, which are online or it depends on the internet and all, it may take more than 5 seconds. Sometimes it may take 10, or sometimes it may take 15 seconds, or sometimes it may be low also. So you should not use that wait like that. Then we have some other wait till that page gets loaded. Instead of saying wait for this much time, wait till that page gets loaded. It may take some time, maybe 5 seconds, 10 seconds, I don't know. But keep waiting till that page gets loaded and all. We need to introduce synchronization steps like that. Okay, so we will see that slowly.